Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jeff Oxendine. I'm the founder and president of My Health Career Navigator. It's really a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, evening. What we're going to be doing tonight is talking about the very important topic of how do you choose the right graduate school. This is peak time for students and people of all ages that are getting their acceptances for many of the different graduate programs. And I know that it's a big decision to figure out which is the one that best suits you and is going to help you have the life and career that you want to achieve. And so what we want to do in this next span of time is to go ahead and talk about what are some of the key decision factors, the key considerations, key decision factors, and what the process you might use. And then we're definitely going to leave time for your specific questions, because I know some of you are right now in the heat of having to make this decision. So with that, I'm going to ask Janet Umeta with my HCN to help us go ahead and put the slides up, and we'll get started. You can ask questions by sending questions in the question box or in the chat to Janet, who will then be able to ask them to me. And I really want this to be something that's practical and of value to you. So you can ask questions along the way, or for sure we'll get your questions at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, the focus that we're going to have now is on considerations about which graduate school, degree, and program that you're going into. And it's important that you really think of it in that term. It's is this the right graduate degree, school, and program for me to be going into? Because it's not just the degree and it's not just the school. And then how am I going to make the decision, and when am I going to make the decision is a big consideration. Do you make a commitment right now, or do you wait until you know what all your options are and you know what your funding options are, and you're really in the best position to choose? How do you figure out the school, degree, and program? And then, as I mentioned, your particular questions. Next slide, please. So some key considerations, and only you are the one ultimately who can know which is the right school, degree, and program for you, and when's the right time to go to graduate school. There's a lot of temptation. There's a lot of temptation and a lot of pressure, sometimes coming from our families or friends, because they're going to graduate school, or they want you to go right through to graduate school when perhaps you don't have as much experience as that you might want or need. There's pressure for yourself to make sure that you feel like you're moving ahead in your career at the pace that you want to go, and that you're having the kind of experience that you want to have. There's financial pressures. One of the big considerations is, well, what's the cost? What's the affordability? Am I going to get the right package that's going to help me to do this? Those are all factors. But some others to consider are, is this really the right time? And are you ready? Again, you might get a lot of pressure for people saying, and your friends are all going through, they're getting into medical school, they've already gotten into public health school. Your parents are saying, gosh, we really want you to go now. But are you ready is an important thing. And is this the right time to go? Even if you've gotten accepted, just because you've gotten accepted into schools, if you've gotten accepted now, you can get accepted again in the future. So some considerations are just making sure that you're ready to go, both psychologically, physically. You're up for the challenge, you're up for the pace, you're up for a change, and that you think you have the experience and the knowledge to be able to go in and be successful, and know that you're even picking the right school, degree, and program given the direction that you want to go in. And do your options include the best school, degree, and program for you? You're going to have this degree from this school and this program for the rest of your life. You're going to be somebody who now I'm over 30 years ago that I got my MPH and Master's in Business Administration. And every day I'm identified as the person who went to UC Berkeley who has an MPH, and an MBA. You want to make sure, and the networks that I have are related to that, the credibility that I have. When I'm applying for jobs, that's what's on my resume. That's who the people I'm speaking to. So making sure that that is something that you want to have, because there may be schools and degrees and programs that you got in now to keep going right through, but it may or may not be the best. I've had students throughout their careers and mine come to me and say, gosh, Jeff, I went straight through, I got my MPH, and now I can't get a job. Can I have an Health Career Connection internship or, something else? And it's like, you only have one shot to go and to get your MPH or your MBA or your MD, and making sure that it's the right school, degree, and program for you. And then, what's your best alternative given the career direction that you're going in? Is it the best right now to get a graduate degree from this particular school and program that you're in? Or is it better to work a little bit longer, or so that you can get into an even better degree, school, and program, or that you'll have more knowledge about your career direction and more ability to get a job afterwards? And is it better to get some more experience? Is it better to take some time off if you're burnt out and you need to rejuvenate? Is it better to apply when you have had more time to improve your academic performance, or other things that would be helpful for you? So just important to also ask, is it right now, what's my best alternative to going to what I'm into at this point in time? Next slide, please. So those are some considerations. Some additional ones are on. Janet, can you go ahead and change the slide, please? There you go. Oh, no, go back, sorry. Some additional ones are, what is your current career direction? And what do you need to do to decide? If you know what your direction is, you're pretty certain, and that the degree, school, and program align with that, that's terrific. But maybe you're not really sure and you want a little bit more to decide. But the program that you go to should align with your career direction. It should be a stepping stone to put you in a position to be more competitive, to be able to go into that direction and to get what you want. So you should be asking yourself, is this program I'm in, is this going to get me where I want to go? And which of my options will be better at getting me there or helping me to decide? And that, which leads to, how certain are you about your career direction? The more certain you are, the more you can be able to really assess whether the degree and program that you're in are going to get you to where you want to go, or at least a really good next step. And if you're not, then you should look at either a different option, because graduate school is expensive, and the use of your time and your opportunity costs from working, or you can go to a program which you think will help you to make that best choice about your direction, or give you the skills regardless of which direction that you go, that you're still going to be able to be successful. How can you best position yourself for your direction is an important thing, and how does this graduate school help you? Are you already somebody who has a fair amount of experience, and this is giving you a credential that you need now to be able to get higher level positions? Are you somebody who's had more research experience, and now this degree is giving you more practical, would be a more practical oriented degree because you're changing into practice, or vice versa? So how is this degree going to help position you, the degree and school and program, for what your direction is? Big thing is, what is your graduate school objectives? How important is it at the end that you walk out with a certain job, and that you have a job when you graduate, or that you are, and then which program will help you more along those lines? How important is it to have a certain kind of travel experience? One objective you could have is living someplace else, and maybe you've lived in California your whole life and you want to experience the East Coast winter, or the joy of being on the East Coast, which has a lot of really cool things that are there, and you're going to do it for a couple of years without having the commitment, because you're just going to be in school. Or maybe it is to shift careers from one, as I mentioned, more of a technical career to more of a managerial career or something. Or maybe it's to have a new life experience of some kind. But whatever it is, be clear about what your objectives are, because that's, and then you should say, well, what's my definition of success for going through this? At the end of my graduate program, what's most important to me? And then being able to use that to assess which of my program options that I'm in now are going to help me most to be able to achieve that definition of success. A lot of people don't do that. They just look at, oh, well, I've gotten into this great program at this really prestigious school. Wow, it'd be really great to have my degree from Berkeley or Yale or Harvard or UCLA, or that's really amazing. But without thinking about, all right, well, how does that program specifically relate to my career direction? Because maybe it will help you and maybe it won't. A good example is one of my former students. She got into a Columbia nutrition program, and she said, oh, and her parents felt, oh, you're going to get a master's from Columbia. How cool is that? Really prestigious. But in the end, that was not the graduate program that she wanted. She wanted to go into health administration and not into nutrition. So having a degree, a prestigious degree from Columbia, which by the way was going to cost $65,000 at the time, would have been a cool thing to have, but not really aligned with her career direction and not really aligned with what she really needed to get out of graduate school. What are your trade-offs? Being able, and this is an obvious one, but being able to compare in a matrix form, what are the factors that are most important to you related to your objectives and definition of success, and then being able to compare how each of the schools that your degrees and programs that you're in will, get you to where you want to go. And being able to compare also more apples to apples these different programs, because even though programs might have the same name, so for example, something like health and social behavior at Berkeley is different than health education at another school, than community health sciences at UCLA, then health behavior at Harvard. I mean, there's different programs, even though they have the same name and maybe the same degree, they are different in terms of their curricula, in terms of their practical experience and research experience, in terms of the kind of communities that they serve. So you want to be able to compare side by side to make sure you understand fully what you're getting into and not just get caught up in the name of the degree or the program. And then what are your decision factors and criteria? Next slide, please. So some of the decision factors that I would encourage you to consider, and this is also a personal decision, so you should do what's right for you. But one of the factors is the size of the school. There's a wide range of different sizes of public health schools, of social work schools, business schools. Some very small in nature, where you might get more attention and more personalized support. Some very large that might have more opportunities and might have more prestige. But size is a personal thing. Maybe you look at, well, did I go to a large undergraduate program, and do I want a smaller graduate program, or vice versa? How much personalized attention do I want to have, and how much ability to customize my experience? So size is a factor. Geographic location is definitely a factor. Many graduate programs have stronger employer relationships with employers that are in their same geographic region. No surprise at UC Berkeley, where I've taught for many years, more of the students end up in Northern California and the San Francisco Bay Area. Afterwards, the University of Michigan School of Public Health, more people end up in the Midwest afterwards. You can decide if you want to have some kind of an experience, as we talked about before. Do you want to live in a different part of the country? Do you want to live in a different part of the world for your experience? Do you want to get outside of your comfort zone as a personal learning experience as well? So employer relationships, personal experiences are important. What kind of community it's in. Is it an urban or rural setting? And what kind of communities are around you? If you want to, I had one colleague who really wanted to work with the South Asian population on addressing health disparity research. And some of the schools he got into were very prestigious, but they didn't have large South Asian populations in the area that he could work with. as part of doing his research and part of his practical work. So he ended up choosing to go to a place where there was a larger population that he could do that kind of work. Other considerations are the culture of the school, how competitive, how collaborative, how strong is the diversity, how much is the student-centeredness, how much is it research, really hard research oriented, which might be attractive to some people versus more practical or community engagement oriented. All different kinds of cultural considerations. How much is student input valued? Are faculty available to students or not? Some of those considerations. A big thing is, what do people do afterwards? And particularly people who have similar backgrounds to you. You should ask the school degree and program that you're in, what kind of things generally do graduates do? Are they going into research? Are they going into consulting? Are they going into large health systems or public health departments? And align that with what your preferences are. If you really are interested in going into governmental public health or working on health equity in low-income communities, and more of the people that graduate from your program are going into consulting with corporate entities, that may or may not be the mix that you want to have. Or if you want to be in global health, does the program that you're going into, do people go into global health, and what percentage of them go into global health, and what do they do? And particularly people with similar backgrounds to you, if you're somebody who doesn't have as much experience and you're going into a program, how hard is it for people to get a job afterwards if they don't have a lot of experience, and what kind of things do they do versus somebody who has a lot of experience that's coming into it? So that's really an important one, and that's pretty illuminating when you ask that question, of people, and they actually should be able to answer. Believe it or not, some programs can't even answer that very well. A big issue for some people could be diversity and inclusiveness. I will say that many of the top schools of public health, medical schools, dentistry, nursing, business schools may not have the diversity that some of you are interested in. And that just may be something you either have to accept as part of the experience, or it's something you can go into saying, I'm going to make a change in that area while I'm there, which a lot of people I know, have really done that. Or you might say, I'm going to go to a program where there is more diversity, or at least the community surrounding it has the diversity that you need. A couple other factors are things like, what's the emphasis of the school degree and program? Meaning, is it more quantitative or case-based? Is it more research-focused or practical? When I was choosing MBA programs, one of the Berkeley MBA program was a more quantitative program, and so I wasn't that strong at quantitative, but I wanted to strengthen my quantitative ability, so I choose to do that versus more of a case-based program. Some places are more team-based. Some medical schools now have more of a focus on social determinants of health. They have more of a focus on a certain kind of population, like the PRIME programs in California, programs in medical education. Some have a focus on rural, some have a focus on urban underserved, UC Irvine on the Latino population. So really being able to think about, what is the emphasis of that school degree and program, and how does that align with my passion, my values, my career direction that I want to going into, and what's the strength of the program that you're going in? Something might be a health policy and management program, but they might have much stronger focus on health management, and you might be more interested in health policy. So then you may have to decide, or vice versa. You may have to decide, what's the strength? Where do I want to, is that strength aligned with what I want to do? How much do they support you to get good internships or clinical placements, and how accessible are those things in the kind of places that you want to go? How much orientation is there in professionally preparing you for going out into the workforce, for getting a job afterwards? That really varies significantly by school, but I can tell you it's a big factor that people don't often consider when going into a school. Most public health schools, for example, have a required internship that's part of it. Well, are they going to help you to find that? Is it usually paid? Or is it not? And how hard is it to find one? And how much time do you have to devote? And are there people that support you during the experience? Those are all really, really critical situations. Or if you're into research, are there opportunities to research with professors in the areas that you're passionate about? And how easy is it to get to work with them? And if you're in a master's program, do you get to work with them, or is it mainly doctoral students? Reputation and relationships with employers is also really an important thing to be able to focus on. You want to see, who are the people that are hiring the graduates of your program, and is your degree, I mentioned location as being important, but in a big consideration might be, will your degree and your school help you to get a job in other parts of the country or other parts of the world? Because it might be that your program is really strong in one region, but if you decide to move because of your desire for your life or a relationship or career change or promotion or something like that, you want to have a school that will carry you not only in your current region, but when you go travel elsewhere. When I went to Boston, my UC Berkeley degree was highly regarded in getting jobs in Boston area and having credibility with the people, in the Harvard community and many others. So, it's tempting sometimes to go for the regional degree because it's closer to home. Maybe it's less expensive. Maybe they're giving you more money. But you want to think about, how is this going to help me the rest of my career? And then, bottom line is money is important, and affordability and what kind of financial support they provide. And that's something that we'll talk about. But in the end, overall fit, in my humble opinion, is more important, because I think that you want to go to the place where you're going to really thrive in an academic and professional way that's going to be aligned with your career direction and the cultural and geographic fit that you have. And oftentimes the money will come when you either negotiate finally to go to the school, or when you actually get there. I've had many students who ended up choosing the school that they thought was best for them, even though it didn't have the best financial package. And when they got there, additional funds, scholarships, and work study and internship, other kinds of things became available that rewarded their choice because they were in the best school, and they also were able to they also got their financial needs met, or it ended up costing them more than they wanted to, but they got a good return on investment, because by going to a strong school, a good fit school, that the rest of the time you're going to be known throughout your whole career as having been from that particular school. And that will generate more higher salaries potentially, or better job connections, or other kinds of things that will give you a return on investment that will far exceed your short-term investment. So those are some key decision factors. When we have the question and answers, then we'll hear about some of the other ones you're considering and some of your questions about these. Next slide, please. So then how do you decide? If those are some of the key considerations, and there are others, but those are some of the top ones, then how do you go about deciding? And when will you decide? In terms of the process, and today is spring visit day at UC Berkeley here, and the reception is going on right now for students. So most schools have some kind of a admitted students day, spring visit day, interviews if you're in certain kinds of schools. But by visiting, you'll really learn a lot. There's only so much you're ever going to learn by looking at the website and talking to students and faculty and alumni. Those are all really important things. But if it's a place you're going to go for several years, and if you've narrowed down into the schools that you've gotten into, I think it's really worth going to visit. I know a lot of people, they walk into a place, or they go sit in on a class, and they can walk away going, I see, this is really for me, or this is not for me. Or they go out with the students afterwards and have pizza or go for a walk or something, and you end up going, okay, this either is or isn't a good fit for me. You can feel a lot by visiting. Don't be fooled just by the great show that gets put on by the visit day, because that's all, to really hype you up and to promote you. And don't be seduced totally just by the weather, although that's definitely a factor when you go to these days. But look under the hood while you're there, and really kind of use your heart and your head to see what is a good fit for you. And then you really do need to call or Skype with current students. Definitely do more than one. because one, you might find the one student who loves it or hates it, and you want to be able to do 3 or 4 students, similar backgrounds to you in lots of ways if possible. You also want to talk to alumni to find out, now having been through the program and degree in school that you were in, what do they think of it and what would they do differently? And the school should be able to connect you to some alums to help you do that. To be able to talk with some employers even who hire the alums about what they think of the people coming from that school. Use your network. It might be that you're a Health Career Connection intern or a summer enrichment program intern or an intern of the school that you're looking at, but find people that you know that will give you a candid view of the school, not just the rosy website spring visit day kind of perspective. Make sure that you know your options before you decide. It's going to be tempting. You get into one school or a couple schools, and you're going to go, oh, this is really exciting. But if you're on the waiting list for one, or there's, in my opinion, there's no rush to decide until you really know it's the right decision, and until you have the financial package that you really want to have, which is part of the next step, is being able to negotiate the financial support that you need. And we'll talk about that momentarily, but it's important to, in my opinion, to wait until you have all the offers that you're going to have, to let them know that money is important to you, and to wait towards the deadlines. April 15th for public health, for example, I believe, I don't know what it is this year, but that has been the deadline in the past. The closer you are to the deadline, the more other slots become available. You might get into something that you weren't in, or that you might be able to get the financial package that you're looking for. And the more that you have schools that are giving you financial packages, the more you're able to go to them in a non-entitled way and say, look, I got into these 3 programs, I'm narrowing it down. This is what I've been offered at different schools. I really want your program. I really am interested in your program, but finance is important. Can you help work with me to figure out a good package? And so I would continue just to work and develop a good relationship by phone or in person with the people. That's the other benefit of visiting, is to develop a relationship with people in person and to show that you're really interested, and then work with them, continuing to say you're interested, but continuing to work on the financial part of it. It's okay to ask for opinion of friends and family members and others along the way, but in the end, this is your choice, and you need to look in your heart and your head and use your intuition to see what's good for you. Next slide, please. So the big question of how you secure the funding that you need. If we were all in person, I would ask you, hey, let's see a show of hands of who's gotten into the schools that they're excited about, but doesn't quite have the financial package that you would like to have yet. And as I said earlier, I know how important cost is and affordability is, particularly for people coming out that already have undergraduate loans, and that want to go in and serve underserved communities afterwards. But do know that there are many ways to get the funding that you need. And I go back to my own admonition of trying to see if you can get the best fit program, whether or not it's the best financial package for you. I've seen many students make choices that didn't serve them well, because they went for the money and not for the better fit program for them. And I've seen many who went for the best fit and had it work out well, even though the money wasn't there. So the first thing to do, as I mentioned before, is this is when you have the offer. So when you've been offered acceptance, then they want you, and they know that money is important. And so the first thing is actually to have put on the FAFSA all of your financial information. But now that you've gotten in, let them know that you need funding, that's important. Be very enthusiastic about this school. Be not entitled, like, oh, well, I've gotten in, now what money do you have for me? Entitlement doesn't work well. This is a good thing to do verbally, either on the phone or in person or by Skype. You're developing a relationship with the person, and realize they may not have what you need in the short term, but if you let the process play out, there's a greater chance that you might get what you need. And be able to, as I mentioned, let the deadlines get closer to the deadlines and continue to follow up with people in a very good way. Let them know when you've gotten money from other kinds of schools. And particularly if it's a school that they compete with, you don't have to disclose what money you got from different schools, but if it's to your advantage, for example, we've had Harvard and Berkeley School of Public Health tend to have good competition for people. And so if you're able to tell the people at Harvard, well, Berkeley's giving me this, and Harvard, you tell the people at Berkeley, well, Harvard's giving me that, then that helps in the negotiation process. Be creative and do know that it's a negotiation, because they have a limited pot of money, and the people who negotiate and stick with it and have good experience in academics going for them, it will help you to get the money that you need. But it is a negotiation. They're not just necessarily going to hand it to you, although some of you are amazing and they will do that. But you might have to negotiate. Be open-minded and be creative about how to pull this all together. There are the kinds of funds that there are merit-based awards, which means based on your academic performance and your test scores generally, and maybe the undergraduate institution you went for, that there's merit-based awards that you can be eligible for. Then there is need-based awards. There's awards based on financial need or hardship or challenges that you've overcome, the distance you've traveled. And we all have our own distance traveled and the challenges we've overcome. And there are schools that have money to support people that are in those have that as a background. There also are funds for different types of mission that the school might have. The Berkeley School of Public Health has a mission of preparing people to serve the underserved. And Kaiser Permanente had provided some funding for us to have Kaiser Scholars for people who want to serve the underserved. So if that's a passion for you, then communicate that to the people that you're working with. There's funds that are available for different kinds of alumni scholarships. And there are all a range of different kinds of alumni scholarships available. Some that you might get in advance, some they wait until you get there to have access to them. There's diversity-related funds. Certain schools are trying to increase their diversity of people from different kinds of race, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, international, geographic regions. There's funds available to support diversity-related candidates. And there's some departments have funds, or donors have given funds for different kinds of things. So you want to work with people to understand the range of sources within the school that are available, that you don't have to do anything to get funding for, like the scholarships, fellowships, those kind of things. There are funds for or people who will be graduate student assistants, graduate student researchers, or graduate student instructors, to use your expertise to teach or to do work on a research project or to assist a program of some kind. And you can often get fee remission, which means your fees paid, and some cases stipends or an hourly rate also to do that kind of work. So as you get into it, you might ask, well, are there, if they're all on scholarships, are there research funds that are available for you, or sorry, can you have those kind of positions that you can pursue? And then there are funds that you might get doing your internship. Some schools, like Berkeley, for example, we do have people usually get paid for their internships, summer internships, or academic year internships, or part-time jobs. There are many others where that's not the case. That's not the culture of the employers around. There are some schools and business schools in public health where you can get significant amount of dollars per month for your internships. So that could be a factor that comes along with it. And so and then there's obviously loans and other kinds of things that you can take out too. So you want to see the combination of the packages that are available and really be open and creative and push the envelope. And there are outside sources too. There's outside sources of funds. There are scholarships from Kiwanis Club and Rotary and you name it, the National Hispanic Medical Association, the National Medical Fellowships, for those of you that are going into medical school. National Medical Fellowships has a wide range of fellowship programs to support physicians who are pursuing working in underserved communities. So look at do your homework. Every year there are scholarships. I just spoke at a conference 2 weeks ago where the conference organizers, this was a conference for Native Americans, of which I'm part of that group, and they said, oh, there's all these scholarships that go unused every year. And so I can't believe it. We don't have enough applicants for the scholarships. So do your homework and look at external sources. And then, the other things I mentioned is realize that the best option may not be the best financial option. And when you arrive, there are other funds. And once you're there, people are going to want you to stay. So when you show up, I had one student who went to Columbia School of Public Health for her MPH, and she said, I was in the admissions and finance director's office every other week, talking to, I don't remember whether it was him or her, about what kind of, I'm struggling with finances, how can you help me? And the school really worked with her over time to continue to be able to afford it and to be able to get through with it. And so just realize if it's a good school, they've accepted you, it's the one that's a good fit, they'll work with you to make it work. Next slide, please. So that's an overview of what I believe are some of the key decision factors for you to think about in choosing the right school, degree, and program. Also, an overview of the process that you might use to go about making a well-informed choice. And finally, review some key ways that you can go about securing the resources that you need in order to go to that best fit school for you. So with that, I would love to hear what your questions are, and then be able to have some more dialogue. I purposely left a fair amount of time so that I can try to do my best to address your individual questions. So yes, turning it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. So first question comes from Zadia Wallace. Hope that I pronounced that correctly. Says, hello, good evening. My question is, how do I narrow down all my schools? I got into all my top school programs, MPH programs at Columbia, Boston, USC and Boston, and MPA programs at NYU and Syracuse Maxwell. Congratulations. So it now comes down to not only the school, but also the type of degree.
Wow, nice to hear from you. Thanks for joining. I remember our conversations over the summer, and congratulations. I'm happy to talk with you in detail as an HCC alum about your choices. Kind of goes back to the things that I mentioned about saying, because since you have so many good options, being able to say, what is my career direction as I know it now? What objectives do I really want to get out of the graduate school experience to help me go there? And what other factors are important to me? You mentioned the degree. Which degree will serve you well? Well, it kind of depends on, I guess I would ask you, what is your career direction that you're going in? And then which degree will complement your undergraduate background and will position you with the knowledge. I forgot to say, very importantly, what you get out of a graduate program is you get knowledge, you get skills, you get specialized knowledge, specialized skills, specialized credential that you get, and a certain kind of a network of contacts, both within your school and your classmates and within the real world. And so I would ask yourself, of these different schools, degrees, and programs that I'm in, which ones are going to both give me the knowledge, skills, and credentials and contacts that I really want, and they're going to meet my objectives. Do I want to go to school in Boston? Do I want to go to school in New York? Do I, what kind of, what the culture? I mean, all the things that I laid out are things that you should assess in helping you make that choice. And then, but also what feels right to you, what's your heart and your head combined be able to say. All right, which direction are you most interested in going? In terms of, I think when you all ask your questions, if you can clarify, are you more interested in which aspect of public health or medicine or behavioral health or dentistry that you're interested in.
Mhm. All right. So the next question is from Anita. Hello, my question is about Kaplan assistance for the GRE that HCC is offering. Thank you so much for having the opportunity available for us. I'm thinking about my GREs later this year, and will the sign up still be available, and what is included?
So for those of you who are Health Career Connection alumni that are on the webinar, Health Career Connection, because of the work that it does, has negotiated and because of the incredible alums and interns that we've had, we have negotiated an arrangement with Kaplan test preparation services, so that we can offer certain packages to our alums, and that is something that is just rolling out this month for GRE preparation or MCAT, both online and in-person options. And it's something that you will have availability of signing up throughout the year going forward. It's something that we look as a long-term partnership, so you can sign up now, or you can sign up later when you're ready to take the test preparation classes. I will, for those of you who are not already accepted into a graduate program, I do encourage you to take a test preparation course, unless you're an amazing test taker, which some of you are. Because whether or not it should matter as much, it does matter what scores that you have, at least for certain schools. Certain schools aren't even looking at them anymore, or programs, but for certain schools, it does matter. And so doing your best on the exam and giving yourself enough time to take the exam more than once, maybe once with a review course and once without. I mean, it depends on your you maybe take it without first and decide, or maybe you need help, and so don't bother taking it yourself and not doing as well as you'd like to. Go ahead and take the review course. But anyway, it's a long way of saying it is available through the alumni portal of Health Career Connection, and we may be making also some test preparation courses available for non-Health Career Connection alums in the near future as well.
Okay, great. So Julian Ponce's question is, when is the best time to negotiate our grad school financial package?
In my opinion, the best time is when you have your offer. Whether it's a job or a graduate school package, you don't really negotiate. You position yourself to be in a position to negotiate, but you don't do the negotiation until you actually have an offer. And then, as I mentioned on the talk, it's being able to, in a non-entitled way, enthusiastically say how interested you are in the school. Let them know early on that you're interested in that you need some financial support, and that you also are getting into other programs. And then, as I mentioned, I would wait until you get closer to the deadline or at the deadline for making a decision, and then, because in that process, more options tend to make themselves available. If there, for some reason, you're offered a really special package and they said, oh, we need to know right now, because if you don't do it, we're going to give it to somebody else, then that's something to think about. If it's really a great package and it meets your needs, and you don't have to wait. I mean, if you have what you really think you need and you want, and some of you will, then you don't have to wait. But if you are not where you want to be yet, or if you want to find out what's possible, then I think negotiating throughout the process and waiting longer to make your final decision is a good way to go.
So Anita asks again, do you recommend doing full-time or part-time for getting a master's?
I think it depends on your life situation and what your objectives and your definition of success. I personally feel that being able to immerse yourself fully in a master's program and being able to do it in an in-person setting is a pretty amazing experience, and a unique, a really great life experience, because some of what you get out of a graduate program is the coursework and the degree, but a lot of it is the relationships that you have. I went to graduate school a long time ago, and my best friends, besides some of the people that I grew up with, are people that I went to graduate school with, and the people, my business associates, and the people I work with in the health workforce. And some of that came from relationships, from being able to really spend time with people in class and out of class, and not having to run back to work if you're working part-time. If you're working full-time and you're going to school part-time, or if you're doing an online program, you can develop some of those kind of relationships in part-time and on-time programs. And for some of us, we don't have the option to not work. And I totally understand that. Or you might not have a full-time program that's available in your geographic area. And in that case, a part-time program, or you might be a mid-career person who already has a really well-established career, and you've got a family and housing, you're really well established, and you really only want to work, go to school part-time. So that's why I'm saying it depends on your life circumstances. If you can, a great thing to be able to go full-time in person. If you can't, then a part-time program where you still get to interact with your peers and faculty members on a regular basis, and where they promote you developing those kind of relationships, I think is also good. And also connecting with alumni, like the evening MBA program here at Cal. I'm using Cal examples. I'm not promoting Cal over other schools, but I'm using those examples because that evening MBA program at Cal is one that people really do get great networks out of, and they do develop really good relationships, and they do get to know their professors. And so I think you want to just look and see, I know that programs like BU out in Boston and San Francisco State here, they're designed for people who are working full-time to be able to go. So I think it depends on you. Also depends on your bandwidth. Like, how much can you handle? Can you handle doing work full or part-time, and going to school, full or part-time? And but look at the long arc of your career and think of what's going to serve you well, in terms of your learning experience and in terms of your life experience, and try to see, how you can do something that really will meet your definition of success.
Yeah. Thanks, Anita, for your question. Jasmine asks, I have a question regarding personal statements. How can I make my personal statement for a grad school application stand out?
Personal statements, one of the, if not the most important parts of your application for certain kinds of graduate programs. There's often a personal statement and a statement of purpose, which are in some places one and the same, and some there are both. Oftentimes a statement of purpose is the statement of purpose about why you want to go to that particular program and how it fits into your purpose for your career direction, and why they should select you, and how it builds on your passions and your, the work that you've already done. Whereas a personal statement might be a little bit more about your personal background and your challenges you've overcome, and where your passion for health, comes from. And so first of all, I'd be really clear about which is it. Is it a combined version, or are they separate? And then I would follow the guidelines. The schools now are becoming more prescriptive than they have before, many of them, about what they want to see you write in the statement of purpose or personal statement, and how long it should be. In some cases, they're asking you specific questions to answer instead of just you writing what you want. So I would follow instructions, and I would make sure I do that for each school, because sometimes they're different. Some people do write one statement and they use it for everything, and sometimes that doesn't work so well. So I would make sure that you're doing that. And then it's about being concise and compelling. People don't want to read through too much to get to the heart of the matter about why you should be why you want to be in that program, and why they should select you, and how it builds on your future direction that you want to go in, and your experiences. Make sure that it's really well written and no grammar and spelling errors. Have editor and people who know you well review it, and make sure that you write down what do you want to have it convey about you, and then is that coming across, and have people read that, and is it your authentic voice that's coming across, and be specific enough so that you can really make the case for what you specifically want to do. I wouldn't just say, oh, I'm so inspired and thrilled that more people want to work on health equity and health disparities. That's a dream to see that for me. And at the same time, some people will write that and they won't be very specific about, well, how do they want to work on addressing health equity specifically, and why do they want to go to that program that they're applying to work on health equity? What skills and knowledge do they want to gain? What do they want to do with it afterwards? Like being more specific. I had one school that said, oh, we had we had this applicant who wrote a statement of purpose that made us all cry. It was so moving. It was so compelling. It was a great story. But she never wrote that she wanted to be in health policy. And our program was a health policy program. So she didn't get in because she never actually said she wanted to be in health policy, which is what our program is about. So being specific enough about the program so people can really see and answer the question, well, what do you want to do, and how are you making the case for that, and why should we select you? I have a whole webinar on the My Health Career Navigator website about writing statement of purpose and getting good letters of recommendation, and so I would encourage you to look at that for more detail.
Okay, thanks. Next question, this is from Jasmine. Hi, does HCC have a database of scholarships for incoming graduate students? Oftentimes, I'm able to find scholarships for undergraduate or rising high schoolers, but rarely can I find external scholarships for incoming graduate students.
That is a great question. And you know what? Health Career Connection does not have that. However, some places where you can look for that are the association, if you're interested in public health, the Association of Schools and Programs in Public Health, ASPPH. They have a website that has some good resources on different types of scholarship programs for people interested in public health, scholarships, fellowships, funding sources. So it's asppph.org, I believe it is. For medical school, the Association of American Medical Colleges, the AAMC, on their website, they have resources about different scholarships and different ways of financing your medical degree. I know that the Columbia School of Public Health, I knew the former admissions and finance dean there, and he really was expert at finding these different kinds of resources. And I believe the current person is as well, and I believe that through their website, the Columbia School of Public Health website probably has a pretty good list of different kinds of sources for financing your public health and other medical types of degrees. I don't know about nursing or pharmacy or dentistry. I would look at those associations and see, and there's also like a student nurse website that might have some of this. You might also look at Me Mentor, a great website for students interested in pursuing health careers, particularly pre-med, or studentdoctor.net if you're interested in medicine. And Janet, I'm not sure if you have any other suggestions of medical oriented sites for scholarships.
No, I probably should be asking the same question. I think
no problem.
Yeah. But yeah, I think actually, yeah. So I think even talking to the school, if you were accepted into a school, sometimes they have scholarships internally, and maybe you could ask them if they're offering one. So yeah, I think
absolutely.
Not all.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say, is that it's really important to look first at your school, and then but do both, because a lot of people will do one or the other. They will only talk to their school and they won't look externally, or they'll only look externally and they won't talk to their school. The key message is do both, because it may end up being, you may end up be packaged together a bunch of different things, both external and internal sources that together will get you what you need or close to what you need.
Right. Yeah. All right. So how are we doing on time, Jeff?
I think we have 2 more minutes. Do we have any other questions, or?
Yeah, we have a couple. Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2. Let's see. So I'm gonna choose one who hasn't had a question asked. This is from Cindy. Hi, I got accepted to a MS in HCM, but the program isn't accredited. Should I be concerned? Is accreditation for a healthcare program important to employers?
It's a great question. And can you say it was an MS for what, Janet?
It was an MS in HCM. I'm guessing healthcare management. MS in HCM.
Okay. Well, accreditation is something I didn't talk about as a factor. I think that accreditation is an important thing to consider. It goes along with certain schools. Well, let me see how I can say this. So there are certain places that if you want to work, like at the Center for Disease Control, or certain government agencies, certain governmental public health departments, then there is a requirement. And there's also an exam, which I don't necessarily that people take, a public health practitioner exam. And in those places, you have to go to an accredited school of public health or a program in public health to be eligible to sit for those exams or to work in some of those organizations. But for many health employers, they're not going to know if a school was accredited or not. The accreditation, particularly in health management, but they assume that certain schools, because of their reputation and their relationship with employers, they assume that they're high quality and that they are accredited. The accreditation is a little bit maybe more for your protection, to really understand, it is that school meeting the different standards that the industry and the academic, leaders have set. I would say that you might ask about why they're not accredited, just to learn about that, not in a challenging or negative way, but just to learn. There are some situations, for example, at UC Berkeley, our health policy and management program was accredited by the Commission on Health Management Programs for many years, and then chose not to because we found that it wasn't something that our employers and our students valued, and there was a lot of work and cost involved in it. So even though Berkeley isn't Berkeley is an accredited school of public health, which is important, but not an accredited health management program. But the students coming out of our management program get great jobs, and no one asks about it, and they're doing great. So I think it kind of depends, but usually, I guess I would just understand why they're not accredited, and I would talk to some employers and some of the graduates of the program to find out if that is a barrier for students to get jobs or not. Yeah, and I'd be happy to take individual questions. If Janet can send you if you send an email to my HCN information, and we can give you some more specifics on the individual program that you're applying for.
Okay.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. If it can be specifically about things like that, about maybe less about the process of getting into school, but maybe more about, hey, if you're in a school and you're trying to decide if it's the right school, degree, and program for you, what are some trade-offs? Are there any more that are focused on that?
Let me check. Oh, yes. So Karina asks, I'm currently choosing between my top 2 schools, University of Alberta MPH in Health Promotion and Simon Fraser University MPH. University of Alberta's program is heavily focused on teaching students how to plan, implement, monitor, and evaluate interventions, making them ready for the field. Simon Fraser University is more theoretical and slightly broader, although they do have a practicum. How do I choose?
Goes back to what we talked about earlier about which of those is more important to you, given where you are in your stage of your career and given the direction that you want to go in. Are you more, and how you also want to learn? Are you somebody who wants a more practical, hands-on experience? And is that what you want? Is that how you learn? Do you think that will position you better to get it kind of job and succeed in the career that you want? Or are you somebody who, wants to do more of the research or broader? So I think it's a kind of a personal thing, depending on which career direction you want to go into. Also, where you've come from. Are you coming from more of a research background, and do you want a continued research kind of experience? And if you're going to be a researcher and you want more broad theoretical, then maybe that continuing in that light is really good. And thinking about which school also is known in the direction that you want to go in. If you want to go into academia, is Simon Fraser, more along those lines, versus if you want to go more into working in the community or working in for the health services or something like that. Is one or the other going to serve you better? I don't know either one of those programs, so I can't really say in that regard, but I think you just need to think about which will complement your background the best and position you the best for where you want to go in the future, and what kind of experience do you want to learn in. I think and congratulations for getting into your top 2, and you'll be okay either way. Now it's just choosing what will fit with you. And the bottom line on all of this is, what's the best fit? Considering all of the 2 factors that you mentioned, research versus more practical, but also are there other considerations too that we outlined that you should also think about?
So another question. I think Omar, I skipped Omar's question. So he asked a more general question: which is the best degree program you would suggest for an aspiring family nurse practitioner who envisions a long-term career in hospital and health systems management?
Oh, thanks so much for going into being a nurse practitioner, and we really need more nurse practitioners, and for also being somebody who wants to pursue health management in addition to that. I think that's a great combination for now and for the future. I think I do not know enough about the position, the different programs, to be able to give you an informed decision on that. I think that's one for you to do your homework on, by being able to look at the regions that you might want to live in and the types of schools that you're interested in, and then going to talk to faculty and to talk to students in those programs and employers, and see people that are doing the kind of work that you want to do and where they went to school, and then doing some homework on that. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. And I don't know if you have to make a trade-off between the strength of the school clinically versus administratively. You might end up going to the one that's the best clinical fit and that perhaps gets you in the direction that you want to go on the administration side, but you might end up getting another degree at some point in health administration from a different school that specializes in that. Something for you to have to think about. But for those of you, again, if I'm happy to try to answer your individual questions, if you send them to Janet. Janet, what email should they use?
I will include the email in the follow-up after this presentation that includes all the slides. But myhcn1@gmail.com. I'll send it in the follow-up email.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. Really good to have your questions, and thanks for your attention. And hopefully you will continue to follow our work on myHCN, and we'll do our best to answer some individual questions. Good luck making these decisions, and in the end, trust yourself. Trust that you will make a good choice for yourself and for the work that you want to do, and let us know how we can support you. Thank you so much, and thanks to Janet for organizing this webinar. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeff.
Bye-bye. Thank you.